Okay, hopefully this will work now. Let me just see this. Where are we? Hello to everybody. So hopefully you can hear what I'm doing now, and it's all good. I did this before and I sounded like a robot, so hopefully you can. Yes, much better. Yeah, fantastic. That's good. Well, we're going through all my recording equipment, so hopefully this is going to sound good, but who knows. So we've got a microphone, and a few people were saying that they were complaining about the sound, so I've improved that, hopefully. So what we're going to do today, I don't know if I haven't got my title. I can't change the title, unfortunately. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about my 3 favourite YouTubers. We're also going to be talking about some technical things with guitar. We're going to be talking about legato or staccato, which is better, or do we need both? Pretty obvious, I think. So these are the kind of things we're going to be talking about today, and so hopefully there'll be a bit of guitar stuff and also a bit of banter as well. So unfortunately I can't play audio. I'll play along to a track. So normally I do a little bit of playing first, which I should do. So let's put the amplifier up. Let's play a blues. So you're getting all my braving in there now. Okay, so here we go. The voice is pleasantly natural. That's good. Right, let's we've got E. Bathurst. Hi. Simon Fries. Hello. Jason Carter. Hello. Yes, I am Mr. Navigator. That's true. This Navigator again. I like Navigator because my first job ever before the guitar. Actually, I had a guitar with me at the time, and I was a deep sea fisherman, which is basically on a trawler out of a place called Lowestoft in England, and we go right up into the Arctic Circle. But so I love the sea, and I guess maybe that's why I like the kind of the Navigator. sort of logo. One of my favourite films is was it Commander? The guy from Neighbours, Russell Crowe, and he's a commander and something or other. Great film. One of my favourites. Yeah, always good to hang out, Jason. Dwayne, hello everyone. Nice jazzy grooves, thank you. And Bertrand says interesting chromatic approach to riffs. Yeah, and Gary as well has joined us. So yeah, basically with the blues, we like to use a few fancy scales. And this is all on the YouTube. You know, Robin Ford's explained all this sort of stuff millions of times. It's an old sort of jazz technique. So I'm playing a B flat 13. 13 just means 13 take away 7. It's the sixth interval of the current major scale we're in. And what you can do, you play 4 bars of that first chord, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4. Now on that 4th bar, this chord here becomes the 5th chord of your next chord, which is the 1. It's now we're in B flat, so this is an E flat. So what you can do on that, this is like our 1 chord. This is our home, playing the blues scale. But on that 4th bar, this chord then becomes the 5th chord of the new root chord. Okay, so this is like E flat here, and that's where you can play that fancy scale. You've got 2 options here. You've got the half step, whole step, but that works over a flat 5, sharp 11 chord. Or if you want to play your sharp 5 chord, then you can use what's called the superlocutory mode or the auto scale. And that's the choices there. If you've got a flat 9, you could use either scale. And obviously if you've got a flat 5, you can still use the superlocutory mode. But anyway, so that's what I like to do. I like to put a bit of jazz vibe into it, really. But a lot of jazz musicians, they don't think about, you know, all these complicated things. If you speak to an old school jazz player, an old trumpet player, this is probably when I was like 17, and I'd go and speak to like an really old trumpet player, and I'd say, "Are you playing the superlocutorian mode?" Can't even say it. And he'd say, "You what? Oh my dear fellow, I would never play such a dastardly scale." And I'd be saying, "Yeah, but hey man, you're a jazz. I'm a blues musician. You're a jazz musician. Surely you know what a superlocutorian mode is." And of course, the old school jazz musicians, they didn't really know the terminology and the names, but they would be doing it, but they wouldn't know the names. So don't get too hung up on the names and the technical jargon, because music at the end of the day is hearing. Hearing is believing, seeing is disbelieving, something like that. Right, okay. Let's go back here to some questions. Do we have any questions? Yeah, Master and Commander is one of my favourite films, as I was saying earlier. Russell Crowe, great actor from Neighbours, or Home and Away. And I was my first job ever was a deep sea trawlerman from Lowestoft, out in Lowestoft. It used to be 7 or whatever days out at sea, and then you come back and land the fish. So and hence my reason for liking the Navigator names on these guitars. Jay Trim says, "Ramon, when is that Strat going to get a middle pickup?" I don't know when. I really don't know. You know, there's something cool though about having just 2 pickups and 2 sounds. I've only got 2 sounds on this. I don't have the middle sound, so maybe I should just wire it with a middle sound, you know, like a Telecaster. So, but you know, just kind of, that's my jazz sound. And then when I want this, that's my blues sound. So there you go. So maybe it just makes life more simple. I don't have 5 things to think about, you know. The less we have to think about, the better, I think. Matthew, how's it going? How you feeling? Now? How's it going? Worldwide Ghost says, yeah, just listen to whether the degrees are sharp or flat. Yeah, you know, you know, Wes Montgomery probably played stuff that technically was wrong, maybe, but it just sounded right because he had an amazing touch. But when I say he played wrong, I mean Wes Montgomery never played something wrong, but because everything he played was intentional. But maybe a mathematician would come and say, "Oh, that's not quite right," you know, and So sometimes it's just the way you play it. But that's what jazz is. You know, jazz is the avant-garde. It is the chaos and the organized. It's a happy marriage of those two. You know. Right. Gary, yeah, my friend Gary. He's on here. He's a fisherman. He's a sailor. So respect to you. Can you combine the pickups? No, I can't. I can't combine these pickups. But like I said, sometimes the discipline. You know, a couple of years. It's really funny because when I started this YouTube channel, I didn't have any effects because I was going through a rough patch and I had to sell all my effects. And so I went 2 years without any effects pedals. You know. But because I had no effects, I then had to like do my effects with my, you know, my plectrum or my hands. And I tell this story millions of times, but my first ever band, I couldn't afford a delay pedal, and we were doing and so I just developed that kind of, you know, the Who song. That it's like a double. It's like a down, down, up. If I do it really slowly, it's just a down, up, down, down to replicate a delay. So sometimes not having delays or effects even can be an advantage and make you play. So when I didn't have effects, I was just started the YouTube channel. I didn't have any effects, so I started messing around with my right hand and. I was filling in the gaps because I didn't have any effects. So you know, when you have effects, you don't have to play as much, do you? So now I've got effects, I can take it more easy. Yeah, my friend here, I've got a friend Matthew. He got COVID. Matthew, he lives in the same. I'm in Borehamwood, a place called Borehamwood Elstree, where they actually made the film Star Wars, and they record a very English series called EastEnders, which I've never watched. But Brian May's wife sang the theme tune. I think something like that. Anyone can fall in love. You know. So there's a little thing there. But yeah, so Matthew is from my town here. He's probably only a couple of streets away, and he's got COVID. So eat some, you know, good fruit and take some rest, bro. And I'm sure you're going to get well soon. Worldwide Ghost says, as Jingen says from Sweden, if it sounds good, it's good. If it sounds good, it's good. I'm guessing that's the Jingen accent from Sweden. Yeah, I mean, what a fella. He's a very cool fellow, isn't he, Jingen? And actually, we're gonna talk about him because the heading of this live stream should be staccato or legato. Okay, that's a question today. So should we be doing or should we be doing or should we be doing a combination, which I'm really terrible at doing. It's called economy picking, which Frank Gambiali from Australia pioneered. Well, maybe he didn't, but he was a famous one for doing it. Okay, so that's a question to you guys. I'm going to put that out to you guys here. Staccato or legato, which do you like, or a combination of both? That is the question for today. And also another question is, which are your three YouTubers, your favorite guitar YouTubers or music YouTubers? So we're gonna now have a little look because I put this question out to the community, and we're gonna have a little look at and just read you some responses I got from that question. Who are your three favorite guitar YouTubers? So let's see some of the answers because I'm quite interested. So somebody says, yourself. Thank you. The first one. Well, I'm guessing, you know, everyone, because, you know, this channel is like lots of people contribute to this channel. So I don't take that all myself. There's, of course, Bob and lots of people have, you know, contributed to this channel. Right. So James. Oh, no, sorry. Yourself, Johnny Bean, and 5 Watts World. Okay, interesting choice there. But and here's another one. Kenneth Williams. Oh no, sorry, not Kenneth. Keith Williams, sorry, at 5 Watt World. Kenneth Williams was he was a great big fan of his actually. He was in the Carry On films, and I think they recorded them in this very town I'm in now, Bromwood. But anyway, back to this. So Keith Williams, not Kenneth Williams, at 5 Watt World, and Rick Beato and Marty's Music. Okay, well I know Rick Beato. He's a very, very cool fella, very knowledgeable, and yeah, great. I think Rick Beato kind of, he came in and he transcended just the guitar. He kind of made it accessible for musicians, piano and guitar, and you know, you didn't even have to play guitar to enjoy his channel. So that was a really cool thing he did. Okay, the pedal show, or that pedal show, 5 Watt World and Andy's Demos. That's from Rod Clark. So I should be saying these names here. So we've got Jason Channel, James Gum, and so thanks James Gum for choosing this channel. That was Rod Clark, and the next one is Chris Grabowski, music from Alaska. Wow, you're from Alaska, that's amazing. Casino Guitars, Layden Bailey, and Late Night Lessons. So let's do this really quickly. Pocket Picker says at the moment it's Paul Davids, Chicanito, and Rob Shallen. Criminal Arcana says Tyler Larson and Jared Dines, and also Stevie T. Robert Sparkman says Ben Crow for building, Rick Beato for theory, and you guys for history. Namaste. Peter says Philip McKnight, Aguafish, and the JHS Pedal Show. Eric D says Abley House, Josh Turner Guitar, and James. Who is this James? What a cool name. My middle name is James, by the way. Look Up to Wake Up says Guitar Hunter, Rosa String Works, and Guitar Pilgrim. The British Electric Blues Show. Sorry, thank you so much. My Blues Guitar and the Johnny Bean Show. Who is this Johnny Bean? Daryl Kelly says Brad the Guitarologist, Midnight Lessons, and me. Okay, not me, I mean him. So he likes his own channel, and his own channel is called Daryl Kelly. So I must check them out sometime. Gun Raw Guitar is he likes Paul Davids, Rhett Shull, and Shane from In the Blues. Bandish Shalmaldari, if I've pronounced his name correctly, it likes Bob and Ramon. Ask Zach and Doug and Pat. I've got to say Doug and Pat. I love Doug and Pat. Gary says TPS, Paul Davids, and Tim Pierce. Tim Pierce is great. Ryan Haley says James, you guys, and Samurai Guitarist. Okay, yeah, he's pretty good. Samurai, I've seen a few of these. Will Payne says Rick Beato, Keith Williams, and The Guitar Show. Thank you, God bless you. There's loads of these actually. And Andrew Papa said Steve T, Music is Win, Premier Guitar for the Rig Rundown series. We're going to come to that in a minute because I'm going to tell you mine in a minute. GR says yourselves, obviously. Obviously. Doug and Pat Show, Kirk Fletcher. Yeah, Kirk Fletcher's doing quite well. I'm a huge fan of Kirk. He's got his own channel. Richie Zellon, maybe. Oh, and Josh Smith. I didn't know. Yeah, I've seen a few of Josh's. Didn't know he had his own channel though. And I mentioned to Tom Strahl too. E. Bathurst. Who's here? Hello, E. Bathurst. Red Shell, TPS, and Chris Buck. I should know your first name, E, but it's just E here. Yeah, Chris Buck is quite the fella. He's pretty cool guitar player, you know. We're going to mention him when we talk about Legato because I've seen a few of these things. Right, here we go. Carl says Tom Bukovac, Chris Buck, TPS, and you guys. Man, thanks. 5 Watt World and True Tone, Zach Childs are all amazing. Thank you very much. Brandon Puente says Cesar Huesca, Chris Buck, and Mateos Asato. Sounds like a lot of guys from Gloucestershire and Mexico there. Right, Vic says Johan Sagobon. I've seen him, he's very good. Dave Simpson and That Pedal Show. Why didn't they call themselves The Pedal Show? Anyway, That Pedal Show. Dave Perkins says you, Obi-Wan, and this guy, the funniest guitar fail ever. YouTube. Right, okay, well, thanks guys for all your I won't read them all out, but there's loads there, and I did actually read them. They're really good, so thanks. God bless you all for submitting your 3 favorite guitar YouTubers. It's good just to get and we've got some people here as well. Yeah, so you guys are now mentioning JHS show is pretty good for technical stuff, you know. So if you want to build a pedal or something, I think that he's pretty good. So let's have a look. John Hill says Josh Scott from JHS, Colin Scott, and CS Guitars from Guitar Geek. Oh, okay, nice. Davey says, "Hi Roman, love your show with Bob. Also, Sean Tubbs is worth a watch." Thank you, Davey. Very kind of you. Mike Jones says, "YouTube crossovers would be funny. Unrelated channels." Okay, well, what about if I give you my 3 favourite guitar YouTubers and my 3 favourite non-guitar YouTubers? And you're going to be pretty shocked, actually. Oh, something's going down in Bournemouth. Okay, hope that's not for you, Matthew. Right, okay, hope that's not an ambulance. Okay, Simon Free says, "Ron Jackson, great guitar jazz teacher." Yes, sorry. Keep slipping over my words today. I'm not drinking alcohol. I haven't drank alcohol since last year, I think, more or less. So I've given up alcohol. So I'm not drinking. In case you're wondering. Yeah. So my three favorite YouTubers are Premier Guitar, because I know it's a pretty boring choice, and maybe you see them as corporate, but I actually like them for their rig rundowns. I think they kind of started a lot of the whole YouTuber thing, and the guy, the main guy, I can't remember his name, but he's a really cool guy. I love the rig rundowns. Just for rigged rundowns, got my vote. My next one. Now let me get his name right. A guy called Tim Lurch. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him. I mean, he just relaxes me. He just plays a bit of jazzy blues guitar, and he plays it on Telecasters. He's called Tim Lurch, Timothy Lurch. If you Google him, Timothy Lurch, and yeah, I just like him. I don't know why. He plays jazz on a Telecaster, and I know it's not a new thing. I know it's not a new concept. There's been some other amazing guys do that, but Ed Bicknell for one, and Ted Green. But yeah, Tim Lurch, check him out. Just plays great guitar, no nonsense, and I like his YouTube. It's very simple, It's not all flashy and fancy and oh hello, yes, welcome to my YouTube channel. All this stuff. It's just real. Keeps it real. So he's Tim Lurch, and my last one. This is going to be a guy called Tony McKenzie, and I just love the way he talks. He relaxes me again. And the reason I like him, the reason I like Tony McKenzie, yeah, is because I was building a few years back. You can actually see it here. No, that way. That blue Telecaster there. I was trying to build my own Telecasters and guitars out of parts, and I googled, Partsacaster, and his video came up first, Tony McKenzie, and he just started talking. He just sat down. He just had like a box of the Stratocaster on his table, and he was talking about this guitar for half an hour. He didn't even open it, and he just sucked me in. He was just like, "Man, this guy can just talk for hours," and I don't know. I just find him really intriguing and interesting and funny. He's a very funny guy. So check him out, Tony McKenzie. I think it's Tony McKenzie.com. So they're my 3 favorite YouTubers. One's a kind of jazz guy. Tony McKenzie, I guess he's a rock kind of guy, and I like the Premier Guitar rig rundowns, and that's pretty much it. And then somebody else asked me what are my 3 favorite YouTubers. Well, I'm a bit of a rebel, really. So I like anything by Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock is a great sort of alternative historian. He's pretty amazing, and he's sort of. I think his first book that he ever wrote. He was a correspondent for the. I think it was the Telegraph, and he was stationed out in Egypt, and he wrote a book about the Ark of the Covenant, how he'd discovered it in Abydos in Egypt. Anyway, I won't go into it. So Graham Hancock, he's really good, and then this other guy. You're gonna get where I'm coming from with my favourite. I can never remember this guy's name, but he's an Australian chap, and he does really cool documentaries on travel when he travels in the Sahara Desert, which I travel a lot myself to learn interesting African guitar styles. And this guy's called David Adams, and he does lots of sort of travel, lots of travel documentaries. And then there's this other really, so they're kind of my two favorite YouTubers, I guess. And then my other is a bit of a wacky guy, and his name is, well, I'll give you two kind of interesting channels. There's a channel called Social Experimentalist, and it's a guy called Danny Shine, who just basically stands in London with a loudspeaker shouting and arguing with people, and he's been doing it for 10 years, and I think he's a genius, and he should have 1 million subscribers. He doesn't, but he should have. So I like him. And then there's another guy called who does the train hopping throughout Europe. He jumps on trains and for free, just jumps on like a freight train and works out how to get from France, say, to Romania or something. And he's called Shay, Shiey. So pretty weird, but anyway, there you go. They're my 3 or 4 favorite non-YouTubers. So let's get back to today's topic, which is staccato or legato. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine called James Oliver, and he's a cool fella. He's late 20s, I think. He plays a lot of rockabilly guitar and country guitar, and we have to get him over here and interview him. But him and I were having a discussion. Should we be picking every note on the guitar, or should we just be, hammering and pilling off? And my answer to him at the time is, man, if you can't pick it, you've got to be able to pick every note, But that wasn't actually true. I think the best players are using a combination of both picking and pulling off and hammering on. So I'm going to demonstrate this with the pentatonic scale, because everyone knows the pentatonic scale. I don't want to play a flashy scale, which even I can't play. So let's just play the pentatonics. So say we're working in the key of A here. Okay? And then we got this, which is not the BB King box, because that's here. It's the minor version of that here. So I kind of use that philosophy. What I do is, so there you got to pull off, another pull off, and that for me is the best thing. If you can use a combination of pulling off, hammering off, and then you've got the obviously this kind of aftertouch, You're really essentially playing all those notes. Whoop. So I think that's really where I'm at, is staccato and legato. I want to know your opinions about this. But if you want to get the staccato thing going, and when I say staccato, it's probably not an accurate description, because staccato. But if you want to get that going, you have to do it all the time. And so when people sometimes hear me practicing, this is the trick, guys. When sometimes people hear me practicing, my good friend Brian, for example, he says, I really don't like your playing. It's become really horrible. But I had to explain to him, no, it's not my playing, Brian. I'm just practicing this weekend to play, pick every single note. Don't worry, I'm not going to play like that forever. But my staccato playing is not so strong, so I need to practice it. And so you may need to live in that world for a week, 2 weeks, in order to get onto your alternate picking. A great guitarist, I'm gonna name check him, because I saw him on Facebook. Sorry, his name is Nigel. I think it's Nigel Price. Yeah, Nigel Price. Great jazz guitar player in England. And he put a little lick, and it was economic picking or economy picking. Economic. That's what it should be called. Economic. And of course, this is more for a scale sort of thing, is where you're kind of going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. So if you're doing it on this major scale, which is quite a nice scale, which is 5/7 9, 5, 7, 9, 6, 7, 9, 6, 7, 9, and then 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10. So you can use that. It's a really good practice economy picking with this scale. So you're going down, up, down, down. So just down, and that kind of takes out a third of your picking. So supposedly you can shred that. Now I was pretty lazy to do that, so I just basically pick every single note. And I never really got into economy picking, and it's because I'm too old now. I got to my mid-40s, and I feel I'm too old to learn that. I should have watched. I had the video of Frank Gambiali. I had it. It's just I couldn't be bothered to watch it. Yeah, it was kind of strange. So, but now I regret it. If only I'd watched that video 20 years ago. But anyway. So what I do is I kind of do something else, which is sometimes I do a couple of them, but I'm not strict. But when I come down, especially when I come down, a lot of the notes I pull off. So I just want to show that because you can use that. It's a really beautiful sound in your soloing. You're going to pick down, up, pull off, next 3 notes. So, and that gives a certain sound. It makes it less jagged and jarring. So that's a little trick. Those pull-offs you can do instead of a picking really work with the pentatonics. We'll come back to the pentatonics. So that's kind of how I kind of put that together, you know. So what about? Well, I'm going to put it to you guys. What do you think about staccato and legato? Well, you know, are you legato players? Do you play kind of one? Oh, that's another thing. Yeah. So Arabic and African guitar is very, you know, that kind of style is quite legato because of the aftertouch, the little nuances and decorations. So sometimes I do practice. And another thing I do is these kind of Jimmy Page hammer-on and pull-offs, because I never wanted to get really into the Eddie Van Halen thing because I just felt I wasn't very good at it. But this kind of thing. So that's kind of another way of using legato pull-offs and whatever. So let's go to some comments. Hey Davey, great to see you. Great to see you. Right, let's go up here. What do we got here? So yeah, we're talking about legato or staccato, guys. Which is your favorite? What do you like to do? Okay, let's just go back to the YouTube stuff. We've got Worldwide Guitar says I like Jules Guides, which is obviously probably not a guitar channel. I'll have to check that out. Jason says one of the few good things to come from this whole COVID situation is an explosion of guitar-related channels, lessons, and personalities on YouTube. That's very true. That's very, very true. Holdsworth, yeah, legato. So he was really the king of the legato. And we could take that back further to Ollie Hansel, who was playing the white SG guitar. And he really pioneered that sort of style of legato, you know, and economy picking. You know, that was really amazing. Yingen was influenced a lot by Holdsworth. Well, yeah. So you know, I mean, I'm not really hugely knowledgeable about Yingen's style, but he's someone you cannot deny, and you cannot, you know, I came from a country blues. You know, I first started off as a country blues player on acoustic guitar, but a lot of jazz guys started off listening to metal. You know, they're basically metal guitar players, and then they changed to jazz. So they're bringing a lot of these metal techniques, heavy rock techniques, into jazz playing. You know, so you know, some of the, you know, maybe even Julian Lange listened to Jürgen Malmsteen before he started playing the jazz stuff he's doing now. So, you know, maybe Jürgen Malmsteen inadvertently has influenced and informed the current roster of young jazz guitar players. Aldo Meola, yeah. Well, Aldo Meola, he was in the band Return for Forever. Romantic Warrior, an amazing album that my twin brother had, and I used to listen to it a lot. And of course, Chick Corea, who just passed away, he was the keyboardist and led that group. And Aldo Meola was something like 18 or 19 in that group, playing a Les Paul, and an incredible facility, just to. And I'm pretty sure that he played every note. So we're talking. A lot of sort of lines like that, and that really impressed me. I've said this before in a live chat, so it's Struntz and Farra. Check them out, guys. Struntz, Struntz, Struntz and Farra. And Farah, yeah, that was a big influence when I was younger, along with Aldo Meola. I didn't listen to them a lot. Aldo Meola wasn't my whole world, but I knew he was around, and I definitely checked him out and listened to him. I listened to Return for Forever and was really impressed with his guitar technique. And so since when I was 17, I started, or maybe even 19 when I sort of heard that stuff, I've sort of always been working on my picking. And I keep things simple because I'm a simple person. So I like to just do down up. I just do down up and then just... I guess there's a lot of other easier ways to boil an egg. Cook an egg. Can't remember the saying, but that's just what I do. And just kind of... And one tip, if I can give you a tip, guys, if I be so bold, the one thing I say is when you're going to pick single notes, keep the same technique as you would when you're strumming the guitar. So say, for example, I'm doing a funk rhythm. So my picking, my technique doesn't change at all. I don't suddenly put my hand, in a weird position to do my single note picking. I don't change anything. It's pretty much loose. Obviously, if you're going to do some palm damping, that is really important to do the palm damping. So another thing, I just want to show you this, another little practice thing, if you wanted to get with the staccato style thing, or even the legato, whatever, is put it in the context of a rhythm. So. So that's my groove. So you might want to do 1 bar or 2 bars of that, and then you play your scale. 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So that way, it's always musical. What you're practicing is you can put it into, you can use it, because otherwise you're practicing things which have no musical connection or rhythmic connection. And, how can you bring what you practice into music? So it's always good to, and it doesn't have to be fast. It could be really slowly. It could be... You know, 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm using triplets there, but eighth notes. You know, I'm using also accents as well. So that's kind of the staccato thing, you know. And then we're going to talk about legato in a minute. Let's go to some comments. Okay, here we go. Bertrand says it's never too old for rock and roll, and that's very true. That's very, very true. You know, so you know, rock and roll is it's you know, the more mature you are, you know, hopefully the more mature you're going to be. I don't know. You know, some older people I know are completely crazy, but anyway, where were we? Stratman 1966 says, "Hey Goose, I was curious what you used to record This World Is Not My Home." Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind. I'm glad you were. Yeah, I thanks for checking that out. I don't like to you know, shout a lot about if I'm going to do a song, but I do like to put it up on the guitar show. So thanks, guys. If you listen to it, you're amazing. That's incredible, you know. So I don't ask anyone to listen to my music, but if you did, thank you so much. Basically, there's a guitar here. This one here, this acoustic guitar, and that was made by ESP, and it's the only no, I go this way. It's the only ESP guitar. It's based on a Martin D18, and they never really made any acoustics. Maybe they only made a handful of these guitars, and totally custom shop, handmade. It's a beautiful guitar, sounds amazing, it records amazingly well. That's the first time I recorded it, and it came across really nicely for that track, and so thank you very much. Worldwide Guitar Ghost says, so I'm calling you Worldwide Guitars, but you're Worldwide Ghosts. Yeah, Al played every note alternate with palm muting. Yeah, so that's the thing. That is my technique, is I'm playing every note and alternate. So I don't use any economy picking. I wish I could do it. Like I said, I wish I'd watched that VHS Frank Gambiali video, but I didn't. And so more fool me. David says, nice chops. Thank you very much. That's very kind, Dave. Well, you know, David, you know, it's just I keep things simple. You know, I don't try to be the fastest guitarist in the West. I just try to do what I need to do for the music that I play and write. You know, there's no medals or, you know, for the fastest. So I just try to, you know, if I need to play fast, it's for a reason. You know, it's not because I'm trying to be the fastest. You know, I leave that to other people. Paul says, the goose, just a flying high. Hey, can I be here now? Got to go and eat. I will see you later. Okay, cheers, mate. Simon says, that's a great jazz exercise where you just play staccato on each open string for 30 seconds before you start your practice. Really helps. Yeah, it's really, really good. Or to extend on that one, you can do 3, you know, because a lot of scales are 3 notes, right? And if you just mute the strings and just do this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, just do that. It's surprisingly hard, actually. Yeah, so that's another way. That's another thing you can do. All these kind of things. I mean, I used to do this one where you just. And guys, don't worry. You do get better. You know, it's you think, oh, you know, I'm never going to get better. It's, you know, but then if guitar was easy, then everyone would be good at it, and it wouldn't be such a cool thing, would it? So you know, the more effort you put in, the more you get out of it. But you know, if you do, you know, just use whatever you got to use to, you know, to get what you need to be. I mean, there's a great rockabilly lick. Can't even play it, but I think it's Cliff Gallup or something like that. But you know, there's all kinds of things, you know, chromatic that you can do. Warms up the fingers. Anything helps, you know. Stratman was curious if you're a computer guy or old school like me. Yeah, I mean, computer as in yeah, in what context? I mean, computers. I use computers to record. Well, my twin brother only uses analog gear to record. But generally, the way I record, I'm pretty much recording on Pro Tools. I make no lies about that. But I'm using old microphones, old guitar equipment, live instruments, but I do, my kind of thing is using a few 80s synthesizers like the FM7 and the Juno, and I do use that along with kind of a 50s kind of production style, and so my kind of music, the music that I'm producing at the moment is really old school ribbon mics, double bass, chilled out drums, and then we've got the filmer sound, the simple, very very simple slapback delay on everything. So that from that point of view, it's very kind of a 50s sort of vibe. But then I do record into Pro Tools, and I use a few effects, and I like using 80s synthesizers just to put a little bit of a twist on it, and that's kind of to bring your own identity into these things, and it's just whatever works, So that's kind of the way I do it. Everybody has their own sort of ways. My twin brother records only with analog gear or digital gear, but nothing into DAW. He uses a sequencer, a Yamaha sequencer, to record everything and go through a mixing desk. So that's kind of very 80s. A lot of the acid jazz albums were done like that, and he prefers that way of doing things. So it doesn't matter which route you choose, as long as it's the sound that you've got in your head and you get that out. That's the main thing. Derek from Clacton. I'm guessing are you Derek from Clacton, or is it just your surname is Clacton? I've always wondered that, Derek. I think Gary Moore might have gone in a jazz direction. Well, yeah, quite possibly, but I think Gary was kind of, as an artist, if you take into account your singing, your songwriting, and your playing abilities, you kind of like find your niche, and I think he always had jazz interests anyway, so he'd always listen to jazz and he'd always play a bit of jazz. But I think as an artist, he was pretty much, he wasn't going to change. In my opinion, I think he pretty much ploughed his sort of direction, and he was just sort of maturing and getting better at what he did, And apparently his last concert, Gary Moore's last concert, it was a small gig, I think, in London. And somebody's recorded it, and he's playing on fire, He was really playing his arse off, So Jason says, Roman, I've got to run. 1 hour here, head in Germany, and Abens Essen. Great, enjoy your food. Take care, see you soon. Stratman says, I use an old Roland Juno, good man, and 50, but all live takes into Tascam 24. Yeah, so if I started using those 4-track cassette machines, and that's how I first started. And there's a real charm using simple technology, because then your takes and your performances have got to be good. Generally, you're going to capture the best performances in 1 or 2 takes anyway. And then it's the only advantage Pro Tools has is that you can edit things, and you can mix things, and you can put effects. They've got a lot of the cool sort of 60s, the Beatles style plugins that I use. I can't afford to buy the Ampeg compressors, which I promise you I would if I could. But they have a lot of cool sort of plugins where you can kind of replicate that Abbey Road 60s sound, which is really my thing. I love the 60s sort of compressors and limiters and all that kind of stuff, and that's a good thing about Pro Tools, But there's an argument against it, but that's kind of how I tend to record. But I keep things very organic. There's no reason to put a compressor on an instrument or a voice if it doesn't need it, because essentially you're squashing the sound. So, you should be using it sparingly, if at all. Sometimes, it's best just to leave things to be natural, Blues and Blood, Harmonic Tremolo, had fun experimenting with attempting tones this weekend. Okay, so we've actually got... I have my Harmonic Tremolo here. So this is my latest song that I've written. So this one here, this was really cool to have. So when I'm writing at the moment, I'm writing for this new little album, and the harmonic tremolo is like pretty much on every single track. I'm trying to not use it because it's just so good. But I'll give you an example. And I'm kind of going in a bit of a maybe, dare I say it, Americana sort of direction. But so it's kind of really nice for that. It really beds the track in the the production, and you've just got that really, it's a very atmospheric, musical sound effect, And yeah, we did. My friend Brian and I, we did. We checked out the jam pedal. I don't know if you guys have heard of the jam pedal, and we did a sort of an A/B between the jam pedal and the Victoria Reverberamo, and the jam pedal was not bad. It wasn't a bad pedal, but it didn't, it was night and day. It didn't really capture a real Fender harmonic tremolo. There's a magic there, So with this thing, it's kind of like it's a very watery sort of effect. So it brings a whole atmosphere to it. And sometimes these small pedals, they say, oh, this is the closest thing. Well, in this case, they haven't got it. They just haven't got it quite right yet. Weber makes a kit for $500, guys. $500 you can buy, but you have to make it yourself, or you can buy ready-made kits on Reverb for $500. So that might be a route. If you can't afford the Reverberamo, which is pretty expensive actually and hard to get hold of, then you can build or buy a Weber kit, and they've actually got a tube X, so maybe they sound even better than the Reverberamos. I don't know, because they've got 6 tubes instead of 5, as the Reverberamo has, And you can see the Reverberamo, it's just right there, sitting on top of the delay, the slap deck. Well, and that's not on today actually. Is it on? No, it's not on. So, yep. Which jam pedal? The one with the seal on it? Yeah, it's called what's it called? That's something Thelonious Monk. It's a play on Thelonious Monk, I think. And yeah, it's all right. It's a bit thin, and it just doesn't have the same. Doesn't have the right attack. When you're playing a real harmonic trem, when you're hitting that note, it kind of, there's something that you can grab hold of the note. That's the best way I can describe it. Whereas when you play the jam pedal or any of these other ones, they're okay, but it feels like you're losing the note. The note isn't as strong as it is with this. The note is nice and meaty, and you can something to grab. It affects your playing. You're not going to get that with the pedal. We like to keep it real here. I like to tell you the honest truth. And we don't sell anything. That's what we do on the Guitar Show. Right, so let's go to some comments. We're just hanging out now. We've done our staccato and legato. Nobody's chimed in with legato. Nobody likes legato. Let's legato. Well, this is one guy I love for legato. I guess it's one of the best guys. Although he's kind of Monk Knopfler. He does both, I think, because he does the whole chicken picking. But then he also does that, what's the famous lick from? I can't play it, by the way, but it's... Calling Elvis. Is anybody home? You know. So yeah, that's he's a great player. You know, when he was doing a lot of that sort of nice. Okay, one of my favourite licks is this one. Okay, we're in here, B minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically slide here, and then you got another semitone here. So you if I'm 7th and 9th, right? We're in B minor here, and you're doing. I want you all to do this at home, guys. So that's. You can do it bending up as well. So that's a nice little thing you can do. That's a kind of a legato, I guess you'd call it that, an embellishment, and my Knopfler's great for that. And just that. And then he brings a bit of that really cool sort of. For years, actually, this is really cool. For years, I was trying to work out how, and I still don't know. I should. This is just from memory, but I remember he did this really amazing thing on Telegraph Road, and I think it was this. I'm not sure, guys. You can tell me if. So I think it was in, if I remember, it was in D or B or something. But anyway, well, let's play it in B. But I think it was in D. But anyway. Oh no, let's play it in D. Can you hear that? Got that? So it's like boom, boom, boom. That finger, and that finger. But my nail is a bit too big for this bit. But that's how you get that real sort of down. You know, it's just genius. You know, something like that. But anyway, that's one of the highlights of guitar playing was, you know, hearing Mike Knopfler just do those incredible things around that time, and it was just like, man, that sounds good. You know, and it was in the 80s, you know, because I grew up in the 80s. I was, you know, I was young, but I wasn't even 10, I think, when I heard my first Police. I heard what did they play? It was one of the best riffs of the century. And then you had, Mike Knopfler come out, you know, just with that, you know, all that stuff, and that was it for me. It was Mike Knopfler Mike Knopfler brought the whole Hank Marvin thing into the 80s, the Stratocaster Hank Marvin thing. He brought it into the 80s, and the whole nostalgia thing for the 50s instrument. I think that's what Mike Knopfler did better than anybody else in the 80s, you know. Yeah, basically. So guitar. What are we playing today? We're playing. If we're gonna talk guitar gear. As I mentioned before, I was a trawlerman. My first job was out in the North Seas, in the rough weathers, and so when I happened upon these guitars here, called Navigator. I just kind of thinking, you know, Navigator, the seas, had a kind of a pull. So just Navigator guitars have just always been I don't know, just my thing really. I just like them. Who knows if they're the best? They might be rubbish. I don't know, but it was just the name, and then no, they're actually pretty good. They're actually okay, The 80s ones I don't really like, but anything made after the 90s with a Navigator name on it is generally good. But the necks are a little bit wide. This is 42 millimeters. I think this is 42.5 millimeter nut. Okay, so it's not going to be to everyone's taste. They sound okay. They're good. They should endorse me, but they don't. Not that I do endorse anything anyway, but they should give me a free guitar. Why not? Give me a free guitar. Come on, guys. Everyone else is getting free gear. Surely no, but we don't do that in this channel. So, right. What else? We've got a Mystic Blues amp. Okay. Maybe I can just pan this. No, I'm not going to move that because otherwise I'll be cut off. But I've got a Mystic Blues. My philosophy on amplifiers is I like to have two amplifiers. One bigger one smaller one. The smaller one generally I use for gigging now, recording, and the bigger one is just to give me that nice big clean sound. Some people like dirty. They like a boosted tone. I like a very, very clean chimey sound. So let me show you why I like a chimey sound. Again, this is an 80s thing. I think everything for me comes back to the 1980s. Huey Lewis and the News, and the Police, and Dire Straits, and just all those 80s bands and music. That was Stevie Ray Vaughan was in the 80s, although I didn't discover him till the 90s. But whoop, that's falling off. So there's quite a wide neck, so this capo sometimes struggles. So that just gives me like a really nice clean sort of sound, and that's where you need the bigger amp. You need like another 50 watt or 100 watt, in my opinion, to give you what's essentially a completely clean as possible, clean as a whistle sound. Because when I was growing up, we did play. Places were generally more full, pubs in England, and you had to play, loud to rise above the din, and so you needed a 50 watt amp that was clean, and then you put your effects if you wanted any. And that's kind of where I come from, that clean, having a clean platform, 50 watts, Fender amp, whatever, 45 watt Fender, 60s blackface amp, whatever. And that's just not going to get any sort of dirt on it. So that kind of that just gives me that beautiful clean sound. This is a Dumble style amp, but it might as well be a Fender, And so my really philosophy with amplifiers is get one amplifier or two. I have a smaller one and a bigger one, and just keep them and just get to know them. Get to know that amplifier, because it's going to take you years to really get to know the tone. That's why you get people like Keith Richards. They find an amplifier that they like, and then they use it for years and years and years, because they know it. They know what it can do, what it can't do. They know its limitations, what it's good for. I think if I've got some friends that change the amplifier every year, and then you're not really going to get inside that amp. An amp's like an instrument. It's like a guitar. You need to keep gear long enough so that you really know it. Rather than always flipping stuff, changing stuff. And sometimes an amplifier's shortfalls become your strengths. Things that an amplifier can't do, you sort of change your playing or your style to compensate for that, and that invents a whole new thing for you. So get an amplifier that's good. It doesn't have to be the best thing in the world, but it just has to work for you, and then just keep it. And then that's my sort of philosophy on equipment. Because you're watching these YouTubers, and they're always telling you about a new piece of gear and something. And the best guitar players, Rory Gallagher or guys like that, they kept it simple. And I didn't spend loads of time and energy on the guitar gear, buying and selling and all this sort of stuff. So it's just like get what you need, and that's it. Play. It's much more important to learn things and be into the instrument rather than be into eBay. But we love it. Saying that, I love it. I'm guilty as the next man or woman, just looking on eBay all the time and lusting, drooling. I'm just as bad as everyone else. But I try to always put the message out, especially here on YouTube, that you don't need to buy anything new. Just use what you've got. So that's my kind of thing. Yes, so let's go to some comments. I've neglected you guys, so let's have a look. What have we got here? Right, Jake Greer says, "Hi, Doug's Guitar Works. I'm from Canada, Ontario. We love Canadian people here. It's great to have you on board." So yeah, I was telling you that's the amp. I have a Mystic Blues amp. Oscillation Overdrive in the gallery. I guess maybe talking to her. Davey Woodford, tremendous lead tone tonight, Goose Mystics. Davey, actually, I if you guys haven't heard it, but I'm not telling you, you should listen to it. But I released a track, I think 2 videos ago, and Davey Woodford sang the harmonies, and Davey Woodford is actually here on the live chat. Davey Woodford is an incredible guitar player, and he's an amazing singer. So thank you, Davey, for. And I think I'm pretty sure we met on YouTube or Facebook. So it's really cool to kind of meet musicians on me in here and then collaborate. It's great. It's fantastic. It's what it's all about. Jake says, "You deserve way more subs, man." Hey, man. Thank you very much. Very kind, But check out a really cool. This is nothing to do with guitar. My favorite YouTuber at the moment is called Social Experimentalist. Check him out. Give him a sub. He's really cool. Very, very weird, but very cool. Stratman says, "Ramon continues to show ya it's all in the fingers, not amps or pedals. Just even a simple riff. All depends on how you can express it." Yeah, well, coming back to that. So that's probably the whole lick there in key of A. Those little embellishments, music, Arabic music and African music more than Western music. It's all about the embellishment, that kind of thing. And it's really important to put. I'm not saying you should all sound like you're from an Egyptian marketplace, but it's really important, although we love that music, so it's important that you put some embellishments and nuances. And so that's really Martin Knopfler. It always comes back to Martin Knopfler or Peter Green, those guys. Check out their nuances and their embellishments. What do they do with a note? How do they affect that note? And this is nothing about effects or anything. This is about what effect do they put onto that note with the finger. So it's really, just as you said, it's a touch. Your touch is really important. Sometimes just play a note. There's so many different ways of playing one note. You can pick it with your you can pick it with you can snap it, you can pluck it, vibrate down, you can vibrate up, hit it hard, hit it so, there's a lot of things that you need to just check out, even just a touch. Some players like Bill Frisell, he moves the neck, so everything's kind of like wobbly. He's moving the neck all the time when he's playing. It's a really cool sort of technique. It's beautiful. It's a Bill Frisell thing, so that's another thing you can do. A lot of moving the neck. Loads of guys do that. Playing chords, you can vibrate down. Or if you don't want to do that, you can use your whammy bar to do it, Okay, let's go back to some more comments, and let's have a look here. Yeah, true. Did Uncle Doug now start working with Major Tone? Okay, well, this is a private conversation you guys are having to yourselves, which is I highly encourage. Stratman says, "Oh yeah, he's so you're all having a conversation. That's fantastic. Good for you." Neil says, "Ramon, it's nice to hear your voice about fun music in a nutty world." Well, it certainly is a bit of a crazy world. That's why we do these live things, and we just touch base with you guys and say hello. Blues in the blood. Oh, right, that's right. Okay, I think I've lost this. Favorite Cooder album. Okay, well, there's two answers to that. My favorite, well, maybe even three, I guess. But my favorite, the production, the sound of the album, has just got to be the album he made with Manuel Galbon, which was Mambo Sinuendo. How did I remember that? And Mambo Sinuendo, just for the album. I think he took a load of Neve equipment down there and to Cuba to record that. But it's just got a really lush, beautiful sound. His son Joachim Cooder. He played drums and beautiful echoes. Got some congas, is it? The Cuban congas, I think. And just beautiful sound. Very lots of reverbs. Standell amplifiers with 15-inch speakers. And just that production, informed a lot of my when I produce. That's one of my reference albums is Mambo Sinuendo, because it's got a really nice sound quality to it. And then kind of after that, I guess really my favourite concert is a concert he did in '84. The Moulin, whatever it is. It's all on YouTube. The main, just type in Cooder, Crazy About an Automobile, which I think was a live album. But that's my favourite concert that's on the YouTube thing. And then I saw him a couple of years ago at the Cadogan Hall here in London, and he was just like incredible. So Prodigal Son, it's a brilliant album, and it's actually an album that I would highly recommend if you're new into Cooder. His latest album sounds phenomenal, sounds amazing, and that's the reason I got this thing here, this Crucial Audio slapback delay, is because he was doing these sort of and it just, I'll take this delay off, but it had the slapback on it, and it sounded amazing. So that's why I got that Crucial Audio. I bought that, and the thing with Cooder is he's always sounding better. He's always, the guy's mid-70s and he's still leading. He's still got the best guitar tone in the world. Okay, let that sink in. The guy's 70 odd and he has the best guitar tone that I've heard personally. So there you go. That's Cooder. Telegraph Road with a delay. Yeah, it has got a delay on it, but I'm sure that is middle finger, first finger, and thumb. I'll tell you who does that a lot is a guy called Robert Randolph, a great lap steel player. Robert Randolph and the Family Band, I think they're called. And I was listening to him, and he does that quite a bit as well, that whole... little technique there. Yes, Simon has a killer tone on the Prodigal soundtrack. Yeah, he does. Yeah, his tone is just incredible. Yusuf Kasim says, "Who's your favourite guitar player?" Well, that's an impossible question because there's so many great. From going back to Francisco Tarrega. He's one of my favorites. Francisco Tarrega, beautiful waltzes that he wrote on the gut string classical, and he just do concerts for his audiences in the top above a shop, very small, and see the genius at work. So guys like that, and of course you mentioned Adi Meola, Cooder. There's a vast selection of guitar players. No one's ahead of anyone else. Everyone kind of contributes, and you sort of take what you want from each and build your own sort of style. I guess that's the way we kind of all do it. So I think it's the danger is if you're into just one guy. And I'm going to have a little rant here, and I say this a lot. I've said this many times, but for example, nobody loves Stevie Ray Vaughan more than me. Nobody, not even John Mayer. So, but I don't play like him. I made a conscious decision after I went through a year of being in my head, my brain. I was the reincarnation of Stevie Ray Vaughan, along with the thousands of other young guys in their bedrooms. After I sort of spent a year with his music and being obsessed about him and finding out, how tall he was and how big his hands were, all this, insignificant information, I realised that I wasn't Steve Ray Vaughan, which was a tough pill to swallow, because I realised I was never going to be him. I wasn't him, and the world didn't actually want Steve Ray Vaughan again, because one's enough, And so my whole thing is to, it's great to get, and I say this to young guitar players, it's really great to kind of live and breathe one guitarist for a year, I did the same with Hendrix, and I did the same with Peter Green. I had 6 months just Peter Green. That's all I would listen to, Peter Green. And then I got into Wes Montgomery and Django Reinhardt, so that's all I listened to for 3 months. And then after that, it was 4 months just on Jimi Hendrix, reading autobiographies by Charles Shaar Murray, listening to all the albums. This is back before YouTube, and I was 18, 19, and I was smoking lots of marijuana to get into the frame of mind of Jimi Hendrix and that whole thing, that whole scene, and then I gave up when I was 20, I think. So I actually tried to live his music as best I could, and then you leave it, and then you carry on and you get into another player, and I think that's a really good thing to do, but you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay, because that's not you. It's like I'd say it's like Daniel Day-Lewis in a film getting into a character, and he is that character for a year or whatever, and then he leaves it, and then he has some time off, and then he does the same thing again. And I think that's really good if you can do that as a young musician. And eventually, hopefully, after doing that so many times, you're going to get your own guitar style together. You're going to get, what is you, the essence of you, because you've got a little bit of that, and you've got a little bit of this, and you've got a bit of this, and then you put it all together, and then that's your thing, And that's what's really more important. That's much more important, is to have your sound. It could be a very simple sound, like, for example, J.J. Cale, Now, I'm sure he's got influences. He's probably checked out, lots of guitar players in his time. But his thing was more... So just trying to get the groove right here. And that is J.J. Cale's thing. That's his thing, That's what he does. Sonny Landreth. Sonny Landreth, he frets behind the slide. That's his thing. That's what he invented, He brought to the guitar. He probably copied Sonny Boy Williamson and great harmonica player. Sorry, who was I? All those great slide players of the past, Cooder, all that goes. But then he came up with this thing of, I can fret behind the slide. So that's his thing, that's his sound. But he probably went through trying to be all these great slide players in his head when he was young. Dwayne Allman, maybe had a Dwayne Allman phase for a year. So that's the thing I think that you need to do is to live and breathe these guitar players, but then come out the other end, come out you. We want to hear you. Who are you? Who are you? And that's a question you need to ask yourself. Who am I? What is it that I do? Who am I? And if you can answer that question, then you're on the right path. because okay, I don't know who I am, but I'm a bit of this and I'm a bit of that. Well, that is you then, But if the answer is I'm just trying to be Steve Ray Vaughan, then in my opinion, it's not a good road. It's going to lead into disaster. Okay, end of my rant, as you were. So here we go. Let's go back to some. I really went off on one there, didn't I, guys? Right. Wilts and Studio said, I suffered the amp quest. I have stuck with Fender style guitars, and with any amp I go for the same sounds: cleanish, chimey, and dirtiest chimey. So tone depends on the amp's sweet spot. Yeah, so this is a really interesting thing. So what I did, I have my kind of 2 Dumble style amplifiers called the Mystic Blues, and I really like it to make. Tommy, who makes those amps, a really cool friend of mine. And then I have these 2 projector amps made by Bill Crenard, and the projector amps are only 10 watts or 12 watts or something, and they just give it a bit of a breakup. And I just find with those 2 different types of amps, a small one for small gigs and a bigger one when I want a bigger sound, So, and that's really it. I think, if you think about it, Robin Ford pretty much has done his whole career on one Dumble. I know he had a backup, but which he sold, but his whole, his amplifier was like, Rory Gallagher's Strat. It was just that, this is an interesting thing, guys. Think about this year. Robin Ford changed his guitar every single year pretty much. I know he had the Telecaster for a long time, but he went through a lot of guitars. Bakers, he played the Robin Ford Esprit, the Elite, all those models, and then he had the Baker, and then he had after that the Japanese guitar, and then after that one then he started playing more vintage guitars. He turned up with an SG recently, a Casino. He's had a lot of guitars, but he's only had one amplifier pretty much. So in Robin Ford's world, the amp is the most important thing. And yeah, he'll play Fender Twins because that's a very similar thing to his amp, is the Fender Twin. So he can get by with a Fender Twin no problem because that's his world he lives in. But to have the amp is the important thing. But why did he keep it for so long? Because he knows the amplifier. Maybe it's not the best amplifier in the world, but he knows it. He knows what it can do and what it can't do. He knows the limitations, and he knows the things that it's good for. And when you get to know an amp and you get to know what you can do and where to take it, that's a really important thing. So a lot of people like to have a Marshall. Maybe a 70s and early 70s Marshall, and they really get to know Darryl Hall and Oates, guitar player. I can't remember his name. Great guitar player who plays for them. I think he has an old Marshall, and he loves it because he knows the amp. He knows the amp really well. Probably Slash is probably the same. He probably has a modded Marshall that he always takes to the studio with him. Wilt Sen Studio says, I was Andy Summers, or so I thought at 17. Yeah, great. You have to be. I love Andy Summers. Andy Summers was a very, very cool fella, and you have to be. You have to kind of. It's almost like a Daniel Day-Lewis sort of actor thing, where you have to get inside the person. You want to find out what they ate, everything. You want to find. You have to get obsessed with that character and that person playing. You have to have their photo on the wall, and you have to be them. You have to want to be them. Some people do it with jazz guitar players. Some people do it with heavy metal players. It doesn't matter, but it's gonna. That obsession is going to raise your level of playing ability, it's because you've got a goal, you've got something to work for. But then after that, that's when it has to stop, and you have to find your own voice. Yusuf says, is the Dumble your favorite type of amplifier, and why not something like a Vox or a Fender? I love Fenders and I love Voxes, and one of my favorite amps ever, well, my 2 favorite amps are AC30, which sound incredible. I love Rory Gallagher, so I know he used AC30s. I think at least he did sometimes. And I love my favorite Fender amp is a Fender Vibroverb, a 45 watt with a 15-inch. I used to have one, and I used to love the sound of that. I love the 15-inch speakers. They're not bassy. Don't sound really sort of wompy. They're really great sort of sounding things. Stratman says his bigger influence was science fiction. Science, okay, that's really good. Yeah, yes, Hendrix, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hendrix wasn't the big druggy his handlers promoting to be. That's very true. He's very He was he was a together guy. He was a studious. He was a studious man. He was a cultured, very cultured man. I find SRV to be a bit brutal. Yeah, well, he was. He was certainly brutal on these guitars. I mean, he literally played the neck away, didn't he? But then so did Rory Gallagher. Let's go down here. Hendrix, as we've done that one. I was done that one. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Let's catch up here. Derek says, I just wanted to be good enough. I still do. Well, we all do. Sometimes I wake up and think I cannot play guitar, and maybe I can't in some ways, but it's a very it's a kind of a funny thing being a musician, because why do we do it? I do it for the applause. That's really, if you want my honest answer, I don't do it for the money, because there isn't any. I don't have any. But why do I do music? I do it for the applause. When you do a concert and people applause, why do we travel, to another country, fly, because sometimes we get paid, but if you think about all the other time around that concert, why do we do it? We do it for the applause. That's the honest answer. We do it for the applause. Right. Neil says, I love 60s through 80s music. Johnny Marr from the Smiths, Jangly, Rhythm and Ace Frehley for the leads. Yeah, well, music 60s to 70s, 80s was incredible. There's no doubt. I mean, I guess people in the 90s and beyond, young musicians have it harder, because all the best songs have been written in one sense, and a lot of the things were invented, like Richie Blackmore playing through a Marshall. I mean, that's never going to be bettered. I mean, I feel sorry for the younger generations, because Eddie Van Halen's been and gone. Stevie Ray Vaughan's been and gone. So how you gonna top that? Jimi Hendrix, he's been and gone. Wes Montgomery. It's not a. They've got a lot to do if they want to be. It's not a competition, but especially if you've been around when those early players were around, you're going to be listening to what people are coming up nowadays, and you're not going to be too enamoured. But I would say, though, there is a lot of great music happening around the fringes, and the worst one for saying modern music is rubbish. I hate it, because a lot of the great music is happening on the fringe, and there's some great bands. That band from Texas with the instrumental band with the guy with the flat one guitar, flat one strings, scale bass player, great drummer. Can't remember their name, but got a weird name. Amazing band. Check them out. But if someone here will probably tell me their name. Sebastian says, Cooder, what's your opinion on going for a semi-hollow Strat type body? Very interesting. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a really, really good idea. The thin line Telecaster, let's face it, it's not exactly going to be feeding back. And some of my favourite guitars are thin line tellies. I love the thin line telly. Deja Voodoo says, just checked, Riot is up to 7 soundtracks, not including Buena Vista. Along with Ennio Morricone, we can thank them for influencing all the quality Western Americana film scores we love. Of course, because the let me try this, guys. We should play a little bit of slide, actually, because we can. So normally when I play this, it sounds really bad. So let's take advantage of the good microphones. So the most classic soundtrack. I'll put some delay on this just to give it a bit of a. So I heard the soundtrack a while back. Well, there's two of my favourite ones. There's a really weird film called Southern Comfort, where you got kind of guys who go out to a forest in America to play some war games. Does it like a hobby, and it kind of all goes wrong. Great film, Southern Comfort, but the soundtrack was incredible. And I just remembered I wasn't even playing guitar when I first saw that film, and then years later, of course, found out it was Cooder. So that was a really nice soundtrack to check out. Southern Comfort. Okay, we're going to wrap things up here soon. It's been really amazing talking to you guys. I'm going to just play you a bit of Paris, Texas before I go, because that's a really nice tune. So all those great sort of slidey sort of Americana, soundtrack's incredible by Cooder. Okay, let's just check out the comments for the last time, and then we're going to wrap this up. It's been amazing to hang with you guys, and this is kind of how we're going to do the coffee chats. I didn't write here it was a coffee chat, but this was actually a coffee chat. We're drinking coffee here, not beer. And we're talking guitars, anything you want. So let's go to the comments for the last time. Tim, hey Ramon, you played very percussively, which sounds great. Any tips for this technique in terms of guitar setup, string gauge, and action? Yeah, well, this is what I was telling everyone. I made a video saying you don't need pedals, and I think it was a year ago, a couple of years ago, and I explained why I have pedals now. I have like 3 pedals, or 4, I think, But there was a time where I had no money, and I had to sell them all. I wanted to keep my guitars, I wanted to keep my amplifiers, and pedals. Well, they're not as important, are they? Let's face it. So I sold all my pedals. I had no pedals whatsoever, and so I had to kind of think, how can I make effects with my hands? I've got 2 hands here. How can I make effects? So, sorry, I've got a delay on. So what I'm doing there is I'm kind of plucking it with my thumb, and then I'm going down, up. And this is really the trick, okay, is you're doing it down with your nails and then an up with the pads. And I would just sit for hours. Also, you can bring your thumb on the octave. So there's lots of different combinations you can do. Hopefully that will be a starting point for you. And that's what I was saying. Without the pedals, I had to really sort of. There was a tune that I wrote. It's my favourite tune that I wrote. And somebody heard this the other day. A good friend of mine who is an amazing guitar player. I won't tell you who his name is. And he said, "Fake Mills." I was like, "You what?" Of course, he meant Blake Mills, and I was like, fake Mills. Oh, somebody else has just said it as well, yeah. So, yeah, somebody called me Fake Mills instead of Blake Mills. They said, "You're Fake Mills." Well, I'm influenced really by Cooder, but definitely for gear, for the projector amp here, it was Blake Mills who I was influenced by. I make no lies about it. He was the guy who had the projector amp, and I copied him. So that's. And really, it's not really a copy, but there's one tune that I. So really, that's kind of my take on it. Was I guess maybe Black Mills is less percussive than me. I'm not saying there's any reason there's a pro and con, but I think my playing is a bit more percussive than Blake Mills, because I've come from learning African guitar and playing really heavy. Although I try to play quite lightly now, but so let's put something on here. So that's kind of what I sort of bring to the table. I think if you're going to bring something to the table, got to bring something. You can't just copy, So I don't really copy Blake Mills. I copy much more Cooder. But the thing that I bring to the table, maybe that's different from all those guys, is I'm a bit more percussive, and that's really just from playing African music. That's made me more percussive. But I think Blake Mills is an amazing player. Blake Mills for me is the best. The kind of Cooder caster. Although I think I had a Cooder caster before Blake Mills, so I didn't copy him on that. But he's one of the best sort of Cooder caster players on the planet. Aside from the master Ry Cooder. And the thing that Blake Mills does really great is he's taken the whole Derek Trucks thing and the Dwayne Allman, because the Dwayne Allman and Derek Trucks thing, and combine it with Ry Cooder's thing. Whereas I'm much more Ry Cooder. That's really where I live in, is more in the Ry Cooder world. I don't really do the Dwayne Allman, Derek Trucks thing, because Derek Trucks is actually younger than me. So, I was listening to Dwayne Allman and I was listening to Ry Cooder growing up. That's who my influences were. Okay, Sweet Reverb. Yeah, this is a Victoria. This is a reverb tray from Victoria Amplifiers, who are great company. Blake Mills has more in common with Joey Landreth or vice versa. Yeah, it's really funny because I don't really know too much about those guys, but like I said, Blake Mills is just when you think he's playing, he'll always come with something new. And I'm a fan. I'm actually a fan of Blake Mills, that's for sure. And I think a lot of people have copied him. He lots of people have copied him, and I think the guys you mentioned there have copied him. So I would recommend anyone to go and listen to Blake Mills. I don't really listen to Blake Mills' music. I was more interested in his production and his tone, because my style was already formed before I heard Blake Mills. So I can't change the way I was playing. I didn't really, and all I can say is I was very interested in his guitar tone. That's what I was interested in. He had an amazing tone. I mean, I was kind of doing the Dumble thing, the Robin Ford, and all that blues stuff, and then I heard, Blake Mills, and I was like, whoa, there's landmark tones that sometimes you hear from a young player every other year, and his tone sort of stopped me in its tracks. And I thought, wow, that sounds like that's kind of the tone that I've been trying to get for years, and I just love that tone. How is he doing it? How is he getting that tone? So then I researched. I bought his albums. I think it was called Mirrors, and then he came with another. There was another album as well, and I listened, intently, and sent a few emails to some friends, and I found out that he was using his projector, Bell & Howell projector amps, and he was using flat wound strings. And I was actually, I had a Coodercaster guitar for many years, 13 years, but it had round wounds in it. So I changed it to the flats, and boom, that was kind of like pretty much 75% of the sound was having flat wound strings. So this has got flat wounds. The Goldfield pickup, I had the Ry Cooder pickup, but Blake Mills changed it to this pickup, which is a Guitarist pickup rather than the Tiesco pickup. This is a Ry Cooder thing, but was the Blake Mills thing. So the flat wounds and the So the Blake Mills influence would be the flat wounds, the Gaia tone pickup, and the projector amp. That's totally Blake Mills. You know, I don't lie about that. So here we go. Let's take just. I said I was going to go, didn't I? But let's take some more comments here. Sweet Reverb, thank you very much. Blake Mills has more in common. Okay, we've done that one. Listen to drummers, muse what they are doing. Yes, very true, Stratman. Listen to drummers, guys, and percussionists. You know, I like. You know, play a bit of drums, play a bit of. You know, you don't have to be good or anything, but just practice on a djembe or some bongos. You know, just with your hands, because you can. Bring all that stuff onto the guitar, you know. So here we go. Inversions. If you play inversions and understand how to use them, you will start to kind of blend in Mills, Landreth, because those guys do that a lot. Yeah, well, the inversions in D major are easy to do because everything's an inversion really. You don't play the order that you would in normal guitar, so it's a lot easier to play inversions in D tuning. And the major scales, the notes are in a different order. And so there's a little. Some things are easier to do in the open D tuning, you know, and some things are harder. But certainly the chords are, I think, sound. It's easier to play kind of stranger, weirder chords and inversions in D major because everything you kind of play sounds cool, you know. Learning how to chord in open strings, not just the standard slide stuff from mine. Still awaiting the open D. I promise I'm going to bring that to you. I promise very soon. Yusuf. I started learning guitar for 4 months now. Fantastic, Yusuf. Well done. I know some chords. Where do you think I should go from there? And if any advice on how to get into theory? Well, what I would do, and I think anyone else here could give some advice to Yusuf, would be learn some blues, man. Learn the 12-bar blues and learn the pentatonic scale. And just, you know, learn some Kinks songs, you know, all those sort of, you know, Beatles, whatever. For some, if you want to play some fancy chords, learn some Beatles songs. But certainly get into, you know, some cool rock and roll and learn the pentatonic scale and just have fun with that, you know. That's a really good place to start, you know. Stratman says, I formerly started drums with a world-class drummer. It improved my guitar. So yeah, I mean, that's the main thing is a groove. It's all about groove. I think that's what I do a little bit different to those kind of players that you mentioned on slide guitars. Is more my groove and my sort of my percussive playing. That's really, because I just love, you know, really for me, I just and that's really what I bring to the table, you know. And you've got to kind of you've got to come with your thing, you know, be a little bit different, come with a little bit of an edge, you know, and you know, not everybody's good at everything, you know. So really, and with the slide, you know, my favorite. I don't like a lot of show it, you know. I like Cooder because he's very delicate with the notes and he plays a melody, you know, and he's beautiful how he plays. You know, whereas a lot of these guys, they want to get onto slide guitar and start, you know, shredding. And one person that doesn't do that is really Bonnie Raitt. You know, if you listen to Bonnie Raitt playing, she doesn't play with her ego, so she's a really beautiful slide guitar player. You know, she's beautiful anyway, but she plays beautiful slide guitar because she's taken the ego out of the equation. Whereas a lot of guys, you know, they want to, you know, do all this fancy stuff, and it's great, but then you're listening to the impressiveness of their playing. And Blake Mills kind of doesn't. Blake Mills is a really cool guy because he doesn't do that. Blake Mills has got a lot of talent and he knows how to use it and when not to use it. So that's a really cool thing with him, and I think he does that better than anybody. Is he can play like Derek Trucks basically. He can play the same as Derek Trucks, but he doesn't play like that all the time. In fact, hardly ever. You know, if you listen to him to play. that sort of stuff, you know, old melodies, is just really beautiful how he can make those sort of notes sing. So that's really a thing on slide guitar is to be able to, you know, hold, not, you know, be the amazing player, but play for the melody. You know what I mean? And just, you know, really letting those notes. You know, that's for me, that's slide. Otherwise, you're taking it into somewhere else. You know, you're just trying to show off for show off's sake rather than making the music. You know, and slide guitar's got a tradition going back to the Delta and, you know, Robert Johnson and Son House and Booker White and all those guys. Who's got Charlie Patton? You know, it's got a heritage. You know, so you got to sort of acknowledge that, and players like Cooder do that. You know, it's if you listen to Cooder, he's got all of that in his playing, and a lot of the young cats, they don't have that. That's not in their playing at all. Whereas Cooder, you listen to Cooder and you're listening to the lineage going back to those Delta blues players, and actually Cooder was actually taught by players like Reverend Gary Davis. You know, and that's why Cooder's got that sound in him. And when I listen to a lot of these young fellas that you're talking about, they don't have that. They just don't have that connection to the Mississippi Delta. And for me, slide guitar is all about that connection to the Mississippi Delta, in my opinion, you know. So, okay, let's wrap this up. Let's do the last comments here. Louie and Wild Thing were my first songs. Yes, brilliant songs to learn. Louie, you got to know that song, man. It's like one of the greatest songs ever written for garage bands, you know. Your favorite Cooder album? I want to start listening to him. Yusuf. Well, Cooder, I mean, you know, I would just go onto YouTube and type in Cooder Live 1984 and listen to a track called Crazy About an Automobile. Crazy about an automobile. Every woman I know, crazy about an automobile. Well, here I am standing with nothing but a rubber hill. Everyone I know, I'm crazy about an automobile. Woman I know, I'm crazy about an automobile. Well, here I am standing with nothing but a rubber hill. It's one of my favourite tunes, Crazy Like an Automobile. Okay guys, that's it for today. It's been wicked hanging with you guys. It's been amazing. It's great to hear your favourite YouTube things. We've discussed the legato and staccato. That's incredible. God bless to you all. And I'm going to see you real soon on the next Coffee Chat live stream. God bless. Take care. This is Ramon Goose signing up.